So in this segment, we're going to be talking about David Frost, the Iceman himself, admitting his Brexit deal failed touring musicians by inflicting excessive red tape. And this is an area where the EU offered to do like a bilateral deal between the UK and the EU to give musicians kind of easier access to either side. And Frost, in his endless Brexit dogma, said, yeah, no, we're not going to take that. And Boris Johnson, despite saying we're going to fix the issue, he can't fundamentally fix the issue because it takes both sides to fix the issue. If the EU do come back to the negotiating table on this, which, they don't have to if they don't want to. At the end of the day, EU musicians have a much bigger area to go to rather than the UK. So Frost has admitted his Brexit deal failed touring musicians and other artists by punishing costs and red tape in an extraordinary U-turn. And it's ironic that he was the Brexit minister for so long and failed to fix this issue when he had the chance. The negotiator of the agreement had staunchly defended the agreement, blamed for making many tours unaffordable, and refused to get involved in attempts to improve it. And, he kept making the arguments that there were musicians before the EU, there were musicians going to Europe before the EU, and they were, they became famous, so, what's your problem? Get better, essentially, But in a lecture delivered 3 months after he quit as Brexit minister, Frost admitted it was a mistake not to compromise with the EU and called for a rethink. And it's ironic that these politicians, after leaving office, they come up with these great ideas and things that they could implement. It's absolutely moronic that these politicians do this. He said, we should take another look at mobility issues. He said 15 months after The Independent revealed he rejected such a deal in the Brexit talks. There is a whole set of problems here that is making life difficult on both sides. Youth mobility, mobility of specialists like musicians and artists. And isn't it ironic that with freedom of movement, we didn't have these problems, and now suddenly we do? Frost argued these problems can be solved without crossing the UK's red line of ending freedom of movement of EU citizens, despite ministers repeatedly insisting that's not possible. The only reason that ministers are arguing it's not possible is because it doesn't fit into the Brexit dogma, essentially. He admitted he had been too purist, saying a deal removed excessive paperwork and process requirements is needed, adding we should try to get it. And the thing is, the EU offered such an agreement, yet he rejected it. The peer also revealed the government did consider shifting to a more pragmatic approach. Last year he claimed that the vaccine wars with the EU made that impossible, but adding this time we should try harder. Now, that's a stupid point because there was no vaccine war. It was just the UK importing vaccines from the EU and not exporting any. That was the key problem. There was no vaccine war. There was one side being a prat. Can you guess which side it was? The astonishing mea culpa comes amid continuing fears about the plight of musicians denied the chance to further their careers, because touring is a way musicians can make a lot of money. Record labels through very shoddy deals can take money from musicians, but, as Wiz Khalifa said, get good at show money, that's your money. Denied the chance to further their careers after the Brexit deal, a promise to save visa-free touring. The UK rejected an EU offer to retain visa and permit-free tours, leaving artists mired in red tape, and no effort has been made to begin fresh talks with Brussels. And it's not just musicians, it's their entourages as well, getting all the equipment through. It's an absolute nightmare for musicians to do that, and it makes touring not worth it. So I think they'll have to do, they'll have to go through red tape for each member state they want to visit. And musicians, typically, they can go on tour for weeks or months, going to various different countries and venues to do shows. One of my favourite bands, Starset, they're an American band. When they come to Europe, they go all across Europe, from Ireland all the way to Russia. So, this is very damaging for UK musicians. Ministers have made misleading claims about the paperwork involved, despite Boris Johnson's vow to fix the crisis made a year ago. And I would hope that if any musicians want to talk about this, what they do is they say what the situation was before Brexit and after Brexit. What do they have to do to tour in, say, Italy, Spain, Poland, for example? What kind of hoops do they have to jump through to go touring in these sorts of countries? Sir Elton John has led criticism of the government for claiming 21 of the 27 EU countries are offering visa and work permit free access when severe restrictions still exist. And ironically, it's up to individual member states how they want to deal with this. I thought the EU encompasses all, but yet EU individual states once again have the power over these things. Frost comments were condemned as astonishing admission of guilt by Labour MP Kevin Brennan. And what I would ask, certain MPs like Kevin Brennan is, what do you have to offer when it comes to this situation? How are you going to use this as a vote winner and a policy position? Because normally Labour are like, yeah, who me brainer, end of freedom of movement and that, like, oh, we're not Tories and stuff. Come up with something. Give me an idea. Brennan, who I'm pretty sure that's the name of a sniper as well, has pursued the controversy as a member of the House of Commons Culture Committee, but what's he going to do about it? That's the question. Purist dogma has ruined successful British businesses and hit artists' income hard. They will rightly be furious with an incompetent government that sacrificed them for good reason, yet the Labour Party's current position is we're not going back to freedom of movement. What are they going to do with visas in this regard? I don't know. In terms of British businesses, the only thing that they've spoken about is equivalency agreements, which won't solve a lot of issues, and we will not get the EU1 alignment deals, not equivalency ones. Deborah Annette's chief executive of the Incorporated Society of Musicians asked what ministers are going to do to fix the problem following the admission, and this is the only time I'd have any slight sympathy for Liz Truss, given that she's been given a massive remit of jobs to do, and she's doing them all very badly. And, the Foreign Secretary role should not be shared with any other job role in government, because being Foreign Secretary is a difficult job on its own, especially with someone with such limited capabilities as Liz Truss has. Frost has finally admitted that the government may have been too purist. He didn't admit they may have been too purist. I think he admitted they were too purist, and that the trade deal with Europe is making life difficult for musicians, she said, adding it was in fact a disaster. Naomi Poll, Deputy Chief Secretary of the Musicians Union, said, what we need is an EU-wide deal that enables our members to tour in Europe, or bilateral agreements with individual territories, and getting the bilateral agreements is far more difficult. What we need is an EU-UK deal on this, to say like musicians can tour with no problem. They can bring all the equipment that they need. And Jamie Njogu Goodwin, Chief Executive of the UK Music, has said, even if the Chief Negotiator believes we should look at mobility issues again, there is no excuse for the government not to act on this, which is true that this is an issue where the government can't unilaterally fix the issue. The only thing they could do unilaterally is allow EU musicians to come to the UK with no problems, but this is an area where, it benefits both groups, more so the UK, I think. Because again, EU musicians have a whole access to so many other countries, whilst UK musicians do not. In terms of visa-free access, and these artists, they generate a lot of money for the countries they go to. If you think how much festival tickets can sell out for, you're talking £40 and £60 a ticket. Then you've got people buy food and drinks in the areas in and around the venue as well. These events generate a lot of money. And so the UK would be desperate for this, to fix this, because of the damage, the pandemic and the Tories have done to the Culture Secretary. But anyways, not the Culture Secretary, so the culture kind of industry. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.